Hi, students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I am streaming to you from beautiful Budapest, here situated on the gorgeous Danube River. I hope everybody is doing great. This lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com or academicenglishhelp.com for the academic version of the IELTS exam, and gieltshelp.com for the general. On both of those websites, we have loads of materials for you. In fact, we will be using some of these materials today. This is the general IELTS preparation website here. You can use it on your phone, tablet, computer. Click that red button to join, spend a few dollars, save lots of money. Not to sit the exam a second time and stress. For the academic, check out this website with the blue background. Click that red button to join there. Xiao Ming Zhang, Sushil Thapa, and Chiang Hung Tsai, thank you for joining in on the class on time. You are fantastic. For those of you who do not have our app, search for Academic IELTS Help on your Android and iOS devices. Puranjay, welcome. New member. John Dillon, good to see you. If you have questions, comments, concerns, send me an email, Adrian, ADRIAN, at aehelp.com. So today we are doing a reading. Tomorrow we will finish the task 2 that we just started this last class with the members. And then we have more classes coming all the way until Saturday this week. So lots and lots of IELTS help coming up for you. Now let's look at today's reading passage. We are going to work through this reading passage. This reading passage could be section 3 of the general IELTS exam, so definitely make sure to stay tuned in if you are a general IELTS student. And here is reading passage 3. This is coming from our exam 6. So for those of you who have our course materials, this is book number 2. Exam number 6, passage number 3. And here we have a picture. And we have the title. Let's read that. Painting the Sistine Chapel. You should always read the title. Think about it. Look at the picture. What can you tell me when you read this title and you look at this picture? I can enlarge it for you so you can see it even better. So what can you tell me about this? So painting the Sistine Chapel. What comes to mind? And welcome, students. Hi, Eugene. Morteza, hello. I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. John, 5.5 is not enough for most people these days. So John says it's an old picture. Anybody familiar with the Sistine Chapel? It's not really an old picture. I think if you look a little bit, I mean, yes, the painting, John, is very, very old. Absolutely. Puranjay says, I think it's coming out of the Renaissance period. Prince Kakarot says, I think it's a chapel in Poland. I don't think it's in Poland. Okay. It's kind of a church, Kleber. It's the ceiling of a cathedral, Jancy. Who painted it? Who is the painter of the Sistine Chapel? Anybody know that? It's quite a famous person. All right, well, anyway, we got that much. It's a painting. It's the ceiling of a chapel. It's one of the most famous church ceiling paint, probably the most famous in the world. Okay, and Charlie Sen says, hey, wait a second, everyone. This was painted by Michelangelo, none other than, not Da Vinci. It was Michelangelo that painted this one. All right, so we looked at the topic, Sistine Chapel. Probably we will read some about the history, its importance, how it was done, what is happening with it today. Then we look at the questions. Okay, so here we go. Complete each sentence with the correct ending. So here we have to complete these sentences. We can read these parts, but we don't want to read the choices. Okay, so let's read these together. The Sistine Chapel is, that doesn't help much. Michelangelo had been concerned with his. A logistical problem Michelangelo faced was unpainted areas of the chapel. A common misconception is that 4 years of working in uncomfortable conditions meant that Michelangelo must have had. Okay. What does it mean Michelangelo had been concerned with his? What does that mean? Can you explain to me in your own words? Michelangelo had been concerned. Can somebody tell me another way to say the word concerned? John says maybe he had some problems. Yeah, John, I think that's not bad. Regina Capanzana says worried. Very, very good, Regina. Thank you for sharing that. So worried. A logistical problem Michelangelo faced was, can somebody tell me that in your own words? What's a logistical problem? Yeah, clever, worried about. This is a good way, yeah. What's another way to say a logistical problem? Can anybody paraphrase that for me and tell me in your own words? How can you define logistical problem? Groaned Daniel is not going to work. What is a logistical problem? Timur says it's a logical problem. Timur, I think we need to paraphrase it a little bit more than that. Okay. So we could say maybe a rational challenge. Okay. Another way to say logical or logistical is rational. Okay. So a rational challenge. Okay. So some kind of a mathematical problem that needs a solution. Unpainted areas of the chapel, that's okay. A common misconception is that. What's another way to say misconception? Xiaoming, general problem, that works too. Okay, general problem for rational challenge. What's another way to say misconception? Sohan Kingra says a wrong statement or a wrong belief, Jancy says. Yeah, false understanding, a wrong belief. All right, good. So with this kind of a question where you have to finish the sentence, one really important step is some key words like this in the question. You want to paraphrase. At home, you want to do it on paper. And on the exam, you want to do it in your mind. You don't have enough time to do it on paper, so you have to do it in your mind. If you don't know the synonym or another way to say the word concerned, what can you do? So when you're practicing at home, what can you do if you don't know the synonym? Look in a dictionary or find it in a thesaurus. Okay, time out for the thesaurus. Microsoft Word has a thesaurus. The internet has a thesaurus. So yes, Regina says, hey, check in the thesaurus. Thesaurus should be your best friend when you're an intermediate level IELTS student. Very good. So Here we have choices for the end of these sentences, but we're not going to read these. Why not? Why are we not going to read the choices? We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. So we have 9 choices. Why are we not going to read those choices right now? Why would that be a bad idea? Yeah, Decent Guy Word Up is a good app to develop vocabulary. Absolutely. Yeah, so Sushil says it might create confusion because there are lots that are not included, and they can really confuse you when you're trying to answer. Okay. So here we have some multiple choice questions coming up. Same idea with multiple choice as what we just did. These are basically, so this one, if you think about it, students, this question type here with the sentence endings, and this question type here with the multiple choice question, these questions are both kind of multiple choice questions. They just look different. So with this multiple choice, where we have A, B, C, or A, B, C, D, we try to use the same strategies. Now, with multiple choice, oftentimes you have a question, and a good strategy is to change the question into a statement in your mind, okay? So why was plaster laid each day? What would be the statement there? So if I want to change that question into a statement, so not with a question mark, but with a period, then I can do that. What would that look like? So what would the statement look like? Jancy, I'm feeling fantastic today. I'm not sure why you feel that way. So Kleber says plastic was laid each day. There's one important word missing, Kleber. Ogata. Yeah, so Puranjay says plaster was laid every day too. And Amar says the plaster was laid each day because... Yeah, those are good. Yeah. Here's my version. The reason plaster was laid each day is because. Okay, so that's the long version, but that works. That really gets your brain moving in the right direction. So when you have a why, the why is the reason. And of course, I have it doubled up here. So the reason plaster was laid each day. In the reading, in the passage, you're not going to see the question, but you may very well see the statement. Okay? Yeah, so Mohammed Wahab says, every day plaster was laid because. So changing the question in this type of multiple choice to a statement just makes your thinking more effective to get this kind of question correct. Remember that strategy, okay? Everybody clear on that one? Should I write that down in today's notes? I'll do that, okay? I know it's kind of a new one today, so I'll throw it into our notes, all right? Here we go. Tip number 1 for today. Tip 1. When looking at, or when reviewing is more accurate, multiple choice questions, take 2 important steps. 1, change questions into statements. as this is how they will likely appear in the text. And two, and we discussed this for the previous, which was the sentence endings, is identify keywords in the question or statement and paraphrase them. Okay, take those 2 steps. All right, so here's the next one. What did other fresco painters do that Michelangelo didn't? Other fresco painters took steps which Michelangelo did not. And these included, okay, so just changing it in my mind. The Sistine Chapel has survived to modern day because, don't need to do anything there because that's in a statement form. Now, I have A, B, C, D. I don't read the choices because those can be very confusing. And then I have 5 more questions. Yes, no, not given. These ones I do not read because they can confuse me if I read them before the passage, especially if they're not given. So I'm just going to leave those ones till after the passage, and then I'll show you the right strategy. So let's read together. Here we go. Now, this is a reading class for the IELTS exam. If you thought this was going to be a discussion for the new Joker movie, you're on the wrong channel. Sorry. But if you're here for the IELTS, you're definitely on the right channel. And that also means that I would really like you to read with me. So read with me. Let's read together. Focus on the content, the meaning, okay? And read with my fluency. You don't have to read faster, okay? All right. John says, how can we remember the whole passage? John, visualize and keep a mental record of what each paragraph is about. Okay? All right, here we go. So, from the top, let's read the title again. Painting the Sistine Chapel. If you want a high band score, yes, you should read the whole passage. Okay? The Sistine Chapel, named after Pope Sixtus IV, whom directed its construction, is one of the most important sites in all of Roman Catholicism. Located within the Vatican, the seat of papal power, the Sistine Chapel has been home to the papal conclave, the process of electing a new pope, since its completion in 1480. It wasn't until 1508, however, that the ceiling of the chapel took on its famous frescoes from the hand of Michelangelo. Until his work on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo had primarily been a sculptor. In fact, he was hesitant to begin work on the project due to his lack of experience with frescoes. The name given to a painting on a wall or ceiling, usually watercolor painting on fresh plaster. The Pope was adamant, however, and in the spring of 1508, Michelangelo began the work. What is it about? Painting of the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo for Pope Sixtus IV in the early 1500s. Fantastic. You have a picture in your head. So you should see in your head right now the Pope. Ooh, okay. Pope. You should see Michelangelo. Okay. He's the painter. It's his paintbrush. It's gigantic. And he's painting the ceiling of the chapel. Oh, mental picture. Hey, handshake. It's 1508. Okay? You should see something like that in your head. Perhaps you are one of these two characters. That will help you hold information in your head when you include yourself in the story. Okay? Books used to be the most magical of all human creations until movies came along. And in some ways, books are and were more amazing than movies because in our parents', especially grandparents' time, often the readers of stories imagine themselves as the hero or the heroine of the story, and that made it more personal. It made it more memorable. I know that my grandfather was able to tell me about books that he read when he was a small child. I couldn't tell you about what movie I watched last year. Movies really better than books? Maybe not. Anyway, become part of the story. It's a great trick to being more connected and remembering what you read. Okay. Here we go. Let's keep going together. All right. The first problem with painting the Sistine Chapel ceiling was its extraordinary height, reaching almost 70 feet above the chapel's surface. The ceiling would be incredibly difficult to access. To reach it, Michelangelo devised a series of scaffolds that attached to holes in the walls of the chapel. To this day, there are still unpainted areas of the chapel corresponding to the points at which the scaffolding attached to the walls. All right, again, very visual, right? So you have that high ceiling, you have little tiny Michelangelo. Ooh, what's going on? Boop, 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 boop. Question mark, question mark. All right, well, I'm going to stick some poles into the ceiling, and maybe I can stand up there, and then I can paint along. Okay, I kind of hope that makes sense. Again, very visual, so visualize. Okay, see the picture. Maybe be Michelangelo. You're the painter. All right. Here we go. So, unlike Hollywood portrayals, Michelangelo did not paint the ceiling whilst on his back. Instead, he painted in an upright position. This resulted in a rather extreme neck soreness from constantly working with his neck craned into an uncomfortable position. Michelangelo even wrote a poem detailing the difficulties he had encountered. It is a testament to the physical prowess and mental fortitude of Michelangelo that he was able to complete the project. 4 years of physical and mental anguish must have been truly unbearable. Painting frescoes is a labor-intensive task because the plaster must be fresh. This necessitated that fresh plaster be laid on every single day for that day's painting to work. Hey, students, you remember that sentence in the matching sentences, or was it the multiple choice where we changed it? Yeah, it was the first multiple choice question where we changed it into a statement. Because the plaster must be fresh, this necessitates that fresh plaster be laid every single day. There it is. There's your statement. Okay. This section of plaster is called giornata, and the edges between giornate are still visible today. In fact, these visible sections, demarcations, give a great idea of how the work progressed from day to day. While most fresco painters used a pre-made drawing of the day's work to stencil onto the plaster, therefore making the painting easier, Michelangelo painted directly on the fresco. This is perhaps the most impressive aspect of the fresco. Every day, Michelangelo continued the back-breaking work under continuous pressure from the reigning Pope Julius II. Okay? So here, again, we're visualizing, wow, Michelangelo, I'm this painter. It's fantastic. So here's the chapel. Okay, I'm not painting on my back. I hope many of you visualize that. So I'm not just laying on my back and painting along, but instead I'm actually standing and my neck is like this and I'm painting. Oh, my poor neck. Okay, I don't know if you can see my drawing clearly, but it's basically I'm like this. Ugh. All right, and I even write a poem about it. Oh, my poor neck, how it hurts after 4 days of looking at a ceiling. Okay, let's keep reading. Again, when you practice this, students, at home, what I'm showing you, you will be able to do this in 20 minutes. Believe me, I've had many students master the reading section and get great band scores. Here we go. In addition to its beauty and majesty, the masterpiece has passed the test of time. Painted over 500 years ago, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel has survived remarkably well. All of the credit for this hardiness goes to Michelangelo, who was painstaking in his pursuit of perfection. If a section of plaster was not exactly to his standards, he would start over. He must have known that his work might last for centuries, and he wanted to make sure that it did. The quality of the plaster work is germane to the longevity of the work. Paint can be restored through cleaning, but if the plaster fails, the work is lost. Only a very small section of the ceiling has failed. In 1797, there was an explosion at the nearby gunpowder depot, which caused a small section to chip away and fall to the ground. Uh-oh. Hope you visualize that. Kaboom! Big explosion. Okay, let's keep going. There was also some minor restoration work done on the ceiling in the late 20th century. Restoration experts meticulously removed layer upon layer of soot, grime, dirt, and other deposits. This made the fresco much brighter and more vibrant, and resulted in a fresco much closer in appearance to how it would have appeared at the time of its completion. Interestingly, restoration also involved removing the fig leaves which covered Michelangelo's nudes. These fig leaves had been ordered in the 1560s by the very conservative Pope Pius the Fourth. So I'm not going to draw that because some of you might freak out, but I'm sure you can imagine it. Okay, so there are pictures of Adam, I believe, and God on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, as well as some other characters. They're supposed to be naked, but they have leaves on them, and those were added and then removed. You can create the picture in your own mind. I'll leave that one to you. Despite its record of hardiness, there are concerns about the well-being of the ceiling moving forward. Millions of tourists visit the chapel every year, and this traffic has a degrading effect on the paint, as well as the structure of the chapel. While restoration on the main paint can periodically be done, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to restore damaged plaster. While Michelangelo's work has stood the test of time so far, it is unclear how many more centuries his masterpiece will last. All right, that is interesting. So if you want to see the Sistine Chapel, now might be a good time. Don't wait, it's old. Let's answer these questions together. So, the Sistine Chapel is, what do we know about it? So even before we look at the options, what is the Sistine Chapel? The Sistine Chapel is what? What can you tell me about it from your own comprehension of this? Pooja, good luck on your IELTS exam next week. What can you tell me about this? How can you finish this sentence? The Sistine Chapel is what? Finish that. Sushil says it's a masterpiece of Michelangelo. So Sushil says we could say the Sistine Chapel is a masterpiece of Michelangelo. Okay. What else can we say? Van Hubert says a place. Van Hubert, rebellious. What kind of place? Okay. C.S. Murad says it's a church. So the Sistine Chapel is a church. Pachu says it's a 16th century ceiling, partly. So the Sistine Chapel it's just the ceiling that Michelangelo painted. Clever says it's very old. Regina, very good. So Regina says the Sistine Chapel is the seat of papal power. Yeah, that's very good, Regina. I remembered that. So in the beginning, it says the Sistine Chapel is a church located in the Vatican, which is super important for the Roman Catholics. Okay, so try to be detailed, students. Try to think of details as much as possible. Okay, let's see if something matches. The height of the ceiling, mental and physical strength, located in the Vatican, provide evidence of Michelangelo's scaffolding, devised scaffolding. The Pope was adamant, one of the oldest Roman Catholic holy sites. He painted the frescoes while on his back, inexperienced painting frescoes. Prince Kakarot Daniel says it's located in the Vatican. So you like the answer C. I like the answer C. It's definitely located in the Vatican. So let's do that. Doesn't say it's one of the oldest Roman Catholic holy sites. The Roman Catholicism is much older than the Sistine Chapel. So I think C is a good answer there. Okay. Michelangelo had been concerned with his what? Finish this sentence for me in your own words. So what is Michelangelo concerned with? What is he concerned with? Saima Imran says his fresco painting skills. Very good, Saima. Regina says his lack of experience. Vanessa agrees. His experience with frescoes. Yeah, so remember when we were reading that, it's like, oh, I want to help you out, Mr. Pope, but I never did any frescoes. I'm more into sculptures. I don't do paintings. This is going to be a tricky one. So, what is he most concerned about? The height of the ceiling. Mental physical strength, located in the Vatican, provide evidence of the scaffolding, devise scaffolding. The Pope was adamant, one of the oldest. He painted the frescoes while on his back, or inexperienced painting frescoes. Aye. C.S. Murad, John Dillon, and everybody else agrees that here the answer should be I. I agree with you that it should be I. Let's do it. Yeah, he's worried about his inexperience. Again, visualize, students. So visualize, use your logic. I can see that many of you, Jasur, Mohammed, Wahab, Zaid, Nawafa, you're all in agreement. Zaid, Nawafa says, it's I, just put I. All right. A logical problem Michelangelo faced was, what was it? So what was the problem that he faced? Notice how much that visualization is helping you now. Remember I walked you through how you should visualize that you're Michelangelo? So a logical problem that he faced, Kleber says, is that the ceiling was really high. And C.S. Murad says, yeah, Regina agrees. Pavan says, yeah, it's height. Kamlesh agrees. Yeah. Yeah, the ceiling height, yeah. Remember that little image that I drew with Michelangelo, tiny Michelangelo standing there going, ooh, what's going on there? The ceiling is way up here. I just cannot reach it. Should I use a really long brush like that, like a super long paintbrush? 70 meters high? Nope, probably not gonna work. Can't really paint very small details with a super long brush. Okay, so I agree. Let's see which one of these match. I'm not going to read them. You tell me. Which one is it? J.S. Kiva says A. C.S. Murad agrees. Purna J says A. Yep, the height of the ceiling. That was his logical problem. Okay. Unpainted areas of the chapel. How do you finish that? So notice what I'm doing here, students, members. I'm not searching for answers. I'm searching for my brain, right? I'm not searching for answers. I'm searching for my brain. So if you're just searching for answers and you forget to use your brain, number one, your brain is going to be very disappointed in you that you don't trust it to work for you, and instead you think that a piece of paper gives you better answers. So your brain's going to be like, thanks a lot, man. You know that I'm like the universe's most powerful super processor, and I can figure these things out. You don't need to search a piece of paper. So that's what your brain's doing. And number two, is you're going to get the wrong answers. Okay? So unpainted areas of the chapel show scaffolding marks on the wall. That's what Muhammad Wahab says. So J.S. says something about the scaffolding, something about what Michelangelo used to paint the ceiling. Yeah, scaffolding, if this is a new word for some of you, scaffolding are, if you look at a construction site, it's those metal bars that are erected to do painting jobs. Okay, so when you have people restoring a building, and there I've drawn a full renovation on the side of a building. Okay, so these metal bars in China, often bamboo is used, bamboo scaffolding. So scaffolding, yeah, Pavan scaffolding is also used by chemists for chemistry sets, absolutely. So when you have scaffolding to support a beaker, right, for chemistry, it's also scaffolding, absolutely, all right. Okay, so scaffolding, new word. If it's new for you, write it down. It's also used in psychology. We use it in mental scaffolding, but I won't get into that right now. We do use the word scaffolding. It's basically support beams. So there's support beams used to support people or objects in a project. So unpainted areas of the chapel, which one do you think is the correct answer? Which one do you choose? Let's see who's the fastest out of the box. Okay. So some of you are saying E, some of you are saying D. Provide evidence of Michelangelo's scaffolding or devise scaffolding. Careful. Unpainted areas of the chapel provide evidence of Michelangelo's scaffolding is grammatically correct. The answer E is wrong because devised means to make. Okay, so Michelangelo made scaffolding, but E is wrong because it's grammatically incorrect. You cannot follow with a verb in this case. That is devised, okay? So devised is not going to work. Provide is going to work, okay? So D is the correct answer. So here it's D. The meaning is different for E. Devise means to create, okay, or make. Number 31, a common misconception is that. What's a common misconception? That one should be easy. So what is a common misconception? What is some idea that many people believe to be true, but it's not true? Give me a full sentence answer for that one. Common misconception is what? And this one, if you're visual, it should be no problem. If you're seeing what you're reading. So Jancy says, a common misconception is that Michelangelo painted on his back. I'm happy. I'm painting on my back. Okay. That's not true. He was not laying down on his back painting. He was standing up. So, you are right, Jancy. Which one is the correct answer? Correct answer is Taimur Ifran says H. Regina agrees that he painted the frescoes while on his back. Yes, I agree. So a common misconception is that he painted frescoes while on his back. Last one here. 4 years of working in uncomfortable conditions meant that Michelangelo must have had what? How would you finish that last one? Regina says, must have had physical strain. Problems with his neck. Yeah, definitely. And I would also say must have had a strong body and mind. So remember, hopefully you visualize that. There was that one part where it says that Michelangelo must have been a pretty strong painter, both mentally, boom, 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 and both physically. So he's got muscles and the mind to boot. Okay, so that's what I would think of. But yeah, obviously neck pains and so on as well. Which one do you think is the right answer? Timur says, and probably his legs also, standing for all those hours. Timur Irfan, I bet Timur Irfan. I bet you're right. I bet you Michelangelo was just overall very physically fit. Yeah, B. Yeah, mental and physical strength. Yeah, I can only imagine painting a ceiling like that for 4 years. Okay, yeah, things people don't do in the 21st century. Paint ceilings for 4 years. All right, so there we go. CIADHB. Good. Let's do the multiple choice. Any kind of multiple choice where you have to select the answer from a group of answers, the trick is always to think about the answer first, trust your brain, believe in your brain and your logic, and then choose the matching answer. Okay? Dottie, I'm Canadian. Dottie's asking, where am I from? I'm Canadian, West Coast Canadian. All right, here we go. So multiple choice, choose the correct letter A, B, C, or D. Why was plaster laid each day? What's your own answer? Why was plaster laid each day? So plaster is the actual kind of like concrete. It's the material on the roof. It's that white, thick material that turns into basically stone. Okay. Regina says plaster must be fresh for what? It should be fresh for what? What should it be fresh for? Fresh for what? Banu says for smoothness. Yeah, it needs to be fresh to paint. Okay? Yeah, it needs to be fresh for paint. Right. So, which one is it? The plaster did not keep very long. Giornata must be visible. The plaster had to be fresh. Painting frescoes is labor intensive. A, B, C, or D? So you're saying C, the plaster had to be fresh. And you're correct. Answer really should say to paint, but we'll simplify. So let me go up a little bit. So we'll go C. Yeah, so C is the correct answer. All right. Next question, 34. What did other fresco painters do that Michelangelo did not? Again, in your own words, what did other painters do that Michelangelo did not? So the plaster had to be fresh to paint. Should say paint in the choice. And what did other fresco painters do that Michelangelo was like, I'm too good, I'm not going to do that. And I visualized this when I was reading it. Simon, you shouldn't see the board. That's why I'm covering it, because you should have the answer from here first, not from the board. That's what I keep saying. So other fresco painters didn't paint on their back? I don't know. Sheng Hung says he painted directly on the fresco. Yeah, there was that one part. I'm not sure if any of you caught that, but he didn't draw his painting before painting, okay, which is incredible. And that one really stuck with me. So really do pay attention to your reading. So I would say that the correct answer here is A, make a copy of the day's work beforehand. Okay. John says copy, so John got it right. Yeah. So other painters made a copy before they painted. Michelangelo, in fact, the most brilliant painters in our history, they just paint from their mind. They don't need to stencil, right? That was up here, students. That was here. And whenever something is emphasized like this in your reading, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have at least one or maybe even two questions about it. So have a look here. In fact, these visible sections demonstrate where the work progressed. Okay, here we go. While most fresco painters used a pre-made drawing of the day's work to stencil onto the plaster, therefore making the painting easier, Michelangelo painted directly on the fresco. This is perhaps the most impressive aspect of the fresco. So we're talking about the painting of the Sistine Chapel. Okay? That's the topic. That's what the passage is about. And now we're reading a part here that is telling us about the most impressive aspect of that painting. I can guarantee you that in the IELTS exam, when you have a passage, any part of that topic that uses a superlative, like most, best, fewest, there will be at least one question dealing with that piece of information. Okay, so here's another tip for you. Pay really close attention to superlatives in the passage. Okay. Tip 2 for today, pay very close attention to any information that is a superlative in the passage relating to the title or topic. Okay? For example, most, least, best, largest, smallest, fastest, slowest, okay, and so on. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, here we go. Number 35. The Sistine Chapel has survived to modern day because. Why has the Sistine Chapel survived to modern day? What's the reason for that? Okay. Why has the Sistine Chapel survived to modern day? What's the reason? Vanessa says, because of Michelangelo's perfectionism. He really wanted to be perfect. Yeah, Vanessa, I agree. He wanted to be super, super exact with his work, right? Regina says it's going to be A. So Michelangelo's plaster work was inferior to other fresco painters. I don't know about that. Superior, inferior. Michelangelo was a perfectionist. Michelangelo's standards were too high. Michelangelo was always in a high degree of pain. B, Jaren Dream Hunter. You're right, it's B. Pachu agrees as well. Yeah, it's because of Michelangelo's perfectionism. If you answered that, you know that. All right, now, students, here we go with the yes, no, not given. I'm going to show you how you can very quickly do the yes, no, not given. I'm not going to stop here. We have just a few minutes left. You can do yes, no, not given answers in a whole set like this in 2-3 minutes if you know what you're doing. Okay? Here we go. Check it out. This is how I would do the yes, no, not given. All right. Paint does not stick well to poor quality plasterwork. Is this important for the topic, whether or not paint sticks well to poor quality plasterwork? No, it's not. Okay. The passage talks about fresh plaster, which means it's fresh. It was just done today. But it doesn't talk about good quality or bad quality plasterwork and how well it sticks to it. So this is not important for this topic of the Sistine Chapel. So it's not given. Okay. I pay attention here to specific words. Poor. And poor is not equal to fresh. Okay, or not fresh. So it's not given. 37, restoration results in the brightening of the fresco. Here I'm talking about the painting itself. Is it important to talk about restoring the painting and it becoming brighter? Yes, so therefore it's given. Is it true that when the restoration is done, then the fresco becomes brighter? Yes. Therefore, the answer is yes. These 3 dots in math, for those of you who are into math, know that that means therefore, that symbol. Okay, so not given, yes. I don't even search in the passage. Okay, all I'm doing is using my logic. It's an if this, then that computer logic. Okay, I'm going to keep going. 38, the fresco had been modified in the decades after its completion. Is it important? Again, we're talking about the painting. So here, another reason I know this one's not given is because we're talking about the plaster. It's more detailed. Here we're talking about the fresco, the actual painting. So the fresco had been modified. Modified means changed. In decades, decades means 10 years. After it's done. Is this important? Talking about the Sistine Chapel? Yes. Therefore, it's given. Is it true that there were changes after it was finished? Yes. That was a clear picture in my mind with those fig leaves, those tree leaves that were added. So, yes. Therefore, yes. 39, proximity. Proximity means closeness to humans has a negative effect on the ceiling. So the ceiling, again, is the fresco. It's another way to say it. It's the topic. People have a bad effect or result on the ceiling. Is that important? Talking about this ceiling? Yes, absolutely. So therefore, it's given. And is it true that people being close to the ceiling has a negative effect? I hate to say this, but people being close to most things have negative effects in our world, unfortunately, sooner or later. And I don't mean to be cynical. So yes, therefore yes. Okay, and then one more. Plaster, which has sustained damage, is easily restored to its bright and vibrant original form. Okay, so again here, we're talking about plaster, but we're talking about bright and vibrant form, which means we're talking about the painting. Is it important to discuss restoration, bright, colorful of these paintings if it's damaged for this 500-year-old Sistine Chapel? Yes, therefore it's given. And I visualize this, so I clearly remember thinking that people in the 20th century, so in the last 100 years, worked really hard to remove the dirt and the soot and the grime that was on this painting to make it bright again. So this word easily is a trick word. It gives me the answer that this is false. So is it true? No. Therefore, the answer is no. Okay, because this is a yes, no, not given. So no. So not given, yes, 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 not given. Those are the correct answers. Now, if I made one mistake, it's not the end of the world. If I got 4 out of 5, that would still be a fantastic result for yes, no, not given. I don't waste time searching for these ones. I just use logic. Okay. All right. Okay, students, that is it for today's reading class. Remember the 2 important tips from today. Let me erase all of my markups so that you can see this clearly. Here we go. Tip number 1. When reviewing multiple choice questions, 2 important steps. Change the question into a statement and identify keywords and paraphrase them. And of course, when you're answering those questions, use your brain. Tip number 2. Pay very close attention to any information that's a superlative. That is it for today's class. Make sure to check us out at aehelp.com and gieltshelp.com for lots more videos and help. aehelp.com, blue background, click that red button to join us there. And general IELTS, click that red button to join us there. That's it for today, students. Have an awesome rest of your day. Much love from the heart of Budapest to all of you from me. Bye for now.